Good evening. Wow, that I don't know if that clipped or if that was my headphones. um, it's kind of hard to tell because I've got a cheap mic, I got cheap headphones, and when I hear popping and crackling, I don't honestly know which one it is. So, anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. I want to thank Joe today. We got the hosting taken care of, and I want to explain why that is important to me. I don't do a lot on our website. I don't have the time to maintain a website that would need, constant daily whatever posted to it. I can't do that and what I do with taking in the news, going over things, checking on things. I can't do it all at once or by myself. So it is what it is. But the importance of that website is because it is the only thing. Hang on, I got to take this thing off. I was fine before I started, and then I started the show. I'm burning alive now. So hang on. If I don't take it off, I have breathing problems. All right. Sorry about that. So anyway, the website, when I chose hosting, there was two things that I was looking for. Of course, one was cost, because when you do website work, you find out real quick there's some really expensive hosts out there, and then there's some really cheap ones out there. And if you're lucky, you can find a cheap one that gives fair service. The web host that I chose used to give fair service. Now it's kind of but the website's up, and it's inexpensive. And the other thing is that the server is not based in the U.S. So, in other words, the U.S. couldn't turn around and censor it as easily as if it was located here in the States. So that's the reason why I went with the choice that I did on servers, and so it's important that that's up because they can take all of this away. They can take YouTube away, Facebook, Twitter, and obviously, sure, they can take away my website. They can most certainly have ICANN no longer resolve the web address. In other words, you type in the watchmannews.com, it just wouldn't go anywhere, wouldn't do anything. And they could absolutely do that. But that is kind of extreme, and we're way too small to be on their radar that much. So essentially, it's a good way for me to be able to be in contact with you if something were to happen. So if we would happen to get suspended again or whatever, you don't see us up, live when we should be live, and I hadn't said anything, go to the website. I will post a video right on the home page with what's going on. So that's why it's important to me to keep that. Otherwise, to be honest, I don't do much with it. And I don't have time to do a whole lot with it, and I don't know what to do with it. I really don't. I can't invest the daily time to sit there and post article after article after article on the website. I can't do everything. I just can't. I'm pretty much stuck with being able to take in and go through as much news as I can so that I can come here and try to know what the hell I'm talking about, or at least a general idea. I'm not one of those that likes to just barely touch on something and run out and claim to be the master. I don't want to be claiming to be a master of anything, but I do want to know a little bit of what I'm talking about when I talk about it, and not just a, typical way. It has been a hell of a day again for news. There were a couple of items that came out that were a little concerning when I saw it, and so I actually reached out and did get a response, and I can't go into a whole lot of detail. I wasn't given a whole lot of detail, but I can't go into even as much as I was given. But I will say that things look concerning when it comes to the situation with Ukraine and Russia. Now, what's really going on? Look, we don't know. There's no way for me to know. There's no way for you to know. If you don't have your own boots on the ground, there's no way for us to know. We don't know who is doing what, who's provocating what, who's up to what. We have no idea. As you know, when stuff like this happen, when two countries have their little spats like this, there's often issues with, well, let me use the example of Russia coming out and claiming that that the United States is involved in basically trying to prepare for a false flag chemical attack. I can tell you, based on history that I am aware of, that the United States is not completely innocent when it comes to doing such. And at the same time, I have to sit there and think. I have to be realistic and think, you know what? Russia did do this one time before. They did do this one time before. So it's not like it's completely out of the realm of possibilities that they might do it again. And I know I've came here and on several different nights, I've made the comment that, I think that we're going to stay pretty consistent as far as news and severity, if you will, of the news on up through the holidays. And I'm not real quite sure how Christmas is going to do. But then, I do expect after New Year's that things are going to get real hectic real fast. But the more I'm seeing things come out, and the more that I'm mulling it over, holy cow, would that be a surprise if on Christmas Russia invaded Ukraine. I think that would likely throw everybody off, which would largely be the intent. That's why Washington did it, it's kind of a crazy time that we're living in, because we're watching this, well, I'll call it a war, even though it's not a hot war. We're watching this war unfold, or, lead up to a war over there. And then at the same time, here in our own country, it is absolutely phenomenal what they are doing. Shortly before the show, I just shared out another headline, and I've got it in the list of headlines here. Washington, D.C. is now banning the unvaccinated from public spaces. Generally like all the other places, gymnasiums and restaurants and whatnot. So you can add Washington, D.C. to the list of places like, Chicago's on that list now. Of course, New York City's on that list. Boston. I'm sure there's probably others, and I'm sure before the end of the show there'll probably be even more. I don't know what to make of all of that, especially with the timing involved. I mean, I know there's the logical, scientific, medical oh my gosh, it's right before Christmas, and with the, the transmissibility of Omicron, and, everybody getting together for the holidays, you know the drill. I get their reason. But, man, it sucks that I can't just be open and honest about this situation, and perhaps I like doing the live video. I don't know why. I have no idea why I prefer doing live, off-the-cuff type of video over making a video. And so that's probably why I don't really add much to Rumble or anything like that. But I probably need to make a video to put over there on Rumble and be a little bit open about my thoughts, because I can't hear. I absolutely can't hear, and what's crazy is I'm doing absolutely everything to abide by their rules, and they still want to play with me. It's ridiculous, and like I said, it's not. It has nothing to do actually with the money, because we're not talking about a bunch of money. It's the principle of it, and there are a lot more channels that do a lot worse than me in, different ways, and cause a lot more harm than what we could possibly be causing, and yet they're good to go. Us, not so much. And I'm telling you, at the same time that it's frustrating, it's also, I'm trying to think of the word. It tells me just how much over the target that I am. Because one thing that I know from my near 50 years on this ball of dirt is the closer you are over that target, the more fighting you gotta do. And literally, pretty much as long as I can remember, I've been fighting. I'm a very principled person. I could have my entire life made a fortune. Easy. I am skilled in particular fields that make a fair amount of money. If I would have went into auto mechanics and worked in that as a field, as a career, I'd have made a healthy living. If I would have pursued hydraulics beyond E&J where I worked, I would have likely made a killing. Any number of different things I've done. If I would have pursued it as a career, I'd have made a fortune. But the first thing with that is I never wanted a career. I can't fathom doing the same thing for my entire life. For some people, that's the way to go. That's not me. I get bored. And I want to learn more. I want to learn something different. And so that's why I never wanted a career, because I didn't want to just learn one thing really well. I wanted to learn a bunch of stuff, even if some of it was just so-so. And that was probably the biggest reason why I never chose a career. But the reason why I never stuck with something like, say, auto mechanics or something like that is because it went against my principles. I would say auto mechanics two ways. Because both the mechanic and the customer are getting the shaft. The customer is paying outlandish labor fees, and on top of that, usually paying a pretty huge markup over cost of the part. The mechanic provides their own tools, and in many cases, don't really make what they're worth, especially if they're starting out. Those that do make good amounts of money, like say at dealerships and stuff like that, man, all the stupid crap that they have to abide by. I mean, like, they're given lengths of time to be able to get a job done. And it doesn't matter whether it takes 3-4 times that length of time to get that job done. It doesn't matter. They still get paid that amount for that job. And if, for instance, if they have a bolt or two break off and that job takes a lot longer than what it normally should, guess what? They actually make less money because, well, just luck of the draw. That's not cool. And all the time, the customer is paying through the nose. I'm not good with that. Not even remotely. And I walk away from things that are not principled. I have all my life. I've said it before, and I still have never sat down and told the entire story, and I probably never will, because the way I prefer to tell it is with the other person involved right there at the same time. Not necessarily physically, but at least, digitally or however. And that's why I walked away from Pepper Nurse 1. It was principles. If you're not going to do your customers right, if you're not going to do the people right, that pay you to provide a service or a product or whatever, I'm not good with that. And I'll just say it involved ignoring people. Just flat out ignoring them. And going out and running around and doing your own things for you and ignoring the people that are wondering where the hell their stuff is or what's going on. I'm not good with that. And so I walked away. That's the long and the short of it. And, not only that, his contests weren't real contests. They weren't randomly picked, as was stated. I'm not good with that. Not good with that. And so I walked away. But now if you go around in the prepper circles, I'm the bad guy. Because I speak out against things that aren't principled. As if that makes any sense at all. But squeaky wheel gets the oil. And it's not something I talk about often. So anyway, back to the situation that we have going on, both internationally and domestically. Things are not looking any better, either way. If you would have asked me last week if I foresaw a national lockdown, I'd have told you, I don't think so. Not really. You ask me today, man, there's a possibility. There's a possibility. With the way some of these major cities are shutting down like they are, I wouldn't doubt it. With the way that Biden spoke, I wouldn't doubt it. With the revelation that he's going to deploy even more vaccination sites, which I don't get because I don't think that there's lines to get in the current ones. Something's up. Something's up. I've got quite a few tabs open here, and a fair amount of them has to do with what's going on with Omicron and all of that. And of course, a lot of the others have to do with what's going on between Ukraine and Russia. And I've got a few more thrown in there. So one of them's kind of neat, actually. Yeah, let's sip. Forgot I bumped my coffee when I took my shirt off. So, gosh, I don't even know. I don't even know really what to talk about. Whether what's. I sat there and I try to triage the news, and I don't know if I'm just tired. I don't know if I'm just worn out. I got up a little earlier than usual. I don't sleep well. I don't sleep nearly like a normal human being should. I think the day I was up at 4 o'clock. So, go to bed at 10, but in all fairness, around 10. But in all fairness, I usually don't fall asleep until 11, 11:30. And now I'm up at 4, so, yeah, I'm tired. But you know what? Even a normal day sleeping in, if you will, is usually no later than about 4:30 to 5:30. So, and it just that I need more sleep, but it's not an option. It's not an option. The bladder wakes me up. I get up. I deal with the bladder, and I try to lay back down, and then that's when my sinuses start in. Mucus starts building up, and it's kind of hard to clear it when you're laying down, for one, and for two, it's not fair to sit there and keep Jen up when I'm not going to be sleeping anyway. So I get up, I come in here, make me a cup of coffee, and hack and deal with it for a couple hours until I get it cleared out enough that I'm not hacking every 2 seconds. Next day, rinse, repeat. So, needless to say, I get a little tired. And I'm looking at this, like I said, I try to triage it, and I don't know which one is more concerning at the moment. I don't, because either one of these things could erupt into something that is, I don't even know the word, because right now, it's already beyond, absolutely not. So let me go ahead and grab another sip. I'll go over to the headlines that I have pulled up for you. We'll talk about them, and this first one, I'm getting, this stuff's getting old. What we need is good, strong men and women to flat stand up and say, no. No. Regardless of whose feelings it hurts, regardless of what threats are made, regardless of anything. Because you already know they're systematically dismantling this country and everything it stands for. The thing that gets me about everything, before I go there, the thing that gets me about all of this, and I mean everything, the whole shebang, so we pay for it. We pay for them to do this to us. This is ridiculous. And if out of principle or any other reason you refuse to pay that toll, well, then you're kidnapped and imprisoned. I'll tell you what, this is more and more becoming the least free country. It truly is. Yeah, sure, we've got some freedom, some rights here, at least aesthetically, that other places don't have. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure there's a whole hell of a lot of countries where your child could go and sell lemonade on their front lawn and not have police show up and the health department. You might argue that we have more freedoms than most other countries, but I would argue that there's a lot of little crap that we have that they don't. Neither's better. We need our country back. We need our Constitution back, and for God's sake, we need our strength back. Our principles, our morals. Sorry, I'll ramble on with this stuff for hours. Math test for teachers is ruled racist. Now you know why I went through that rant. Says here, Canadian court, thank goodness it's not U.S. for a change. A Canadian court has ruled that a mandatory math proficiency test is unconstitutional and should not prohibit those who fail to pass it numerous times from teaching children, as it unfairly affects non-white candidates. Okay. I mean, sometimes you just gotta sit and digest it, right? And it still passes through. It's like corn. You know what I mean? It just doesn't digest, no matter how hard you try. The Ontario Divisional Court ordered the and sorry for the visual, by the way. The Ontario Divisional Court ordered the Ontario, I'll get it right, College of Teachers last week to grant certification to teacher candidates who have not passed the mathematics proficiency test, citing disparities in success rates of standardized testing based on race. So see, here's the thing. You don't make people smarter. You make the test easier. That's a hell of a logic. Noting that there is an underrepresentation of racialized teachers in Ontario schools, the judgment argued that racialized students benefit from being taught by racialized teachers, and that the deleterious effects, if I said that right, of the MPT on radicalized teacher candidates who have been disproportionately unsuccessful on the test outweigh its benefits. You know what these people need to do? They need to revisit childhood and hold the flashlight for their dad. That's what these people need to do. They need to hold the flashlight for their dad. And a lot of the world's problems would have been solved today. Just saying. This is the story that I thought was pretty cool. Google Maps captures rare photo of stealth bomber located in Missouri. I would say that's not very stealth if Google captured it, but hey, no, this is pretty cool. That is, I'm sorry, I'm a plane nut. And the fact that, it's not like there's a gazillion of these flying around. So the fact that that Google happened to catch one is pretty damn cool, and it's pretty cool that somebody just happened to run across it. So that is really neat. I like planes, so it is what it is. I sit there and I watch different things go on in this country. I know from personal experience, just a little bit of government waste. I mean, as far as witnessing it myself. Just a touch. And I thought that was crazy. Basically, what I'm referring to that I have personal experience with, I mentioned earlier, I worked in hydraulics. One of our customers was an Air Force base, and they would bring us cylinders from time to time, and we would do them. And it was expected. I mean, it was expected by them that we charged way more than what we would normally charge any other customer. And now I'm just a peon at this place. I was just a mechanic. But my boss, there was only two of us there. My boss, a 19-year-old kid. I mean, that's what he was told when he took over well, his dad bought the place, and of course he ran it, and that's what he was told when they took over. You know, that they expected you to charge so much for doing their stuff, because I don't know, I guess how they keep funding or whatever. And I thought that was insane, especially when you would see the difference in the prices. But this goes beyond. Says Senator Rand Paul has released his 7th annual Festivus Report aimed at highlighting wasteful government spending, with over $50 billion included in this year's data. The report on government spending highlighted more than $52 billion in government waste, broken down into topics of spending, including COVID, Afghanistan, and miscellaneous expenditures. Paul's reports are known for highlighting odd research efforts that receive federal funding, and this year was no different. Included in the latest list of grievances from the libertarian-leaning Republican was nearly $500,000 awarded to Reed College in Portland, Oregon, to create a token-based economy where pigeons are taught to gamble with slot machines. $500,000 to do that. $500,000. Another grant was grant worth north of $2 million. Went to Giant Screen Films to reach millions of theatrical viewers across the U.S. with works promoting paleontology and other sciences. What came out at the spending was a documentary, an educational miniseries, and museum exhibit to inspire young students. Admission to the museum was not free, according to the report. You know, I've got a similar complaint locally here. We've got a rec center here, and the property, the land for that rec center, if I'm not mistaken, was donated. And if I recall correctly, part of the agreement when that land was donated was that it wouldn't cost Highland residents anything to use the facility. Well, if I'm not mistaken, and it's been a while, but I think it took a little while to get the project underway and what all else. But they did. They eventually got the rec center built, beautiful place and all of that. But there's a membership. There has been a membership from day one. And I thought the deal was that city residents were supposed to be able to use the facility for free. So if I'm correct on all that, that's pretty damn screwy. Let's see. Other spending highlighted includes $250 million to build border walls in the Middle East and North Africa, but we can't have them on our border, right? We can pay $250 million for them to build a wall, but if we do it, it's racist. Huh. Imagine that. Let's see. It says it seems like just yesterday the national debt was $20 trillion, but now the U.S. has managed to breeze past $28 trillion, Paul said, blasting government restrictions put in place in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, like lockdowns and mask mandates. So, yeah. Nuts. Okay, let me have a sip. Kind of diving through my coffee, too. Okay. Russia gets nuclear boost in the Pacific. And just as a reminder, these are all in order as far as how they came out. Again, they may not actually in reality be in order as like in a timeline because it's the way the news is. But I kind of do my best to keep things straight. So anyway, essentially what this is, it says the Russian Navy has added 2 brand new nuclear-propelled vessels, the ballistic missile submarine Nyaz Oleg and the cruise missile submarine Novorossiysk have become part of the Pacific Fleet. Both entered military service on Tuesday during a ceremony at the Sevmash shipyard, the nation's primary builder of nuclear-powered submarines, which incidentally celebrated its birthday on the same day. The event in the city of Severodonetsk, I'm sure I'm saying these way wrong, in the European North was attended virtually by President Vladimir Putin and Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu via a video link. So anyway, it's, let's see, the Knyaz, I can't say it, Oleg, named for a 10th century prince of Kiev and Novgorod, is the 5th Bory-class submarine and the 2nd member of the upgraded Bory, I don't know if that's Bory, I have no idea, Bory A subclass, which has improved stealth capabilities and weapons control automation. Each Bory A vessel carries up to 16 Beluga-class submarine-launched ballistic missiles. So it says the Nyaz Oleg was floated last year. In October, she test-launched a Beluga missile as part of her sea trials, according to Defense Ministry reports. Novorossiysk is the 3rd Yasen-class cruise missile submarine to join the Russian Navy. She carries Onyx and Caliber missiles as her primary armament, which allows them to engage in anti-ship warfare and attack targets on land. Compared to the first-class boat Severodonetsk, or whatever, however you say it, other members of the class have slightly different design, dubbed Yazan M. They are somewhat shorter and use only domestically produced equipment. The Novorossiysk is floated in late 2019. Both vessels constitute a formidable strike capability, President Putin said during the commissioning ceremony. They will be serving the Pacific Fleet of the Russian Navy. So, they added a couple of, it sounds to me, pretty mean ships to their fleet. And they just keep building and building and building. You kind of have to look at the whole picture here. Look at all the different agreements that the United States have pulled out of. Things are not good. And if you were another nation, and especially if you're another nation that had, rifts with the United States, you would likely start arming up too. And so I think that's what they're doing. And I think they're doing it on a large scale. I think China's doing it on a large scale too. Here it says right out, Moscow reveals preparations for possible conflict. And it says Russia does not want an armed conflict with Ukraine, but will continue to take steps to defend itself, Moscow's top diplomat has said, as Kiev claims Moscow could order an offensive against its neighbor. Speaking on Wednesday in an exclusive interview with RT, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that Russia would not want to choose the path of confrontation, referring to tensions with Kiev. He warned hot heads in Ukraine against military confrontation and said that Russia will respond to any provocations. However, the diplomat said that the choice is up to our partners. According to him, the fact that the U.S. authorities have been quite expeditious with regards to organizing future contacts, I believe it is a positive sign regardless of the substantial work ahead. So that kind of shows a little bit of hope, not a lot, but a little bit. And it says Lavrov added the Russian President Vladimir Putin has previously said Russia has all the capabilities in place to ensure full military and technical response to any kind of provocations that might unfold around us. And there's another headline that I do want to... Okay, this is the one I'll do next. Ukraine claims that Russia is planning a nuclear attack. Now, I don't know. That seems a bit far-reaching to me. Again, I wouldn't be behind a promise that they're not going to invade Ukraine. But I don't think their intent is to use nuclear weapons. Let me read the article and I'll tell you my thoughts. It says one of Ukraine's top politicians has alleged that signals coming from Russia indicate that Moscow could be plotting a full-blown nuclear attack against its Eastern European neighbor in a new sensational intervention. Speaking at a conference on Wednesday, the chairman of the Verkhovna Rada, Ruslan Stefanchuk, remarked that as of 1991, Ukraine had the third largest nuclear capability in the world, referring to its inherited arsenal of warheads from the collapse of the Soviet Union. He noted that Kiev voluntarily gave this up to become a non-nuclear state just a few years later. However, the politician alleged that Russia, which was the guarantor of such disarmament, hints that if we continue our democratic development, it may even launch a nuclear strike against us. The remarks from Stefanchuk come from a foreground of concerns from Western leaders in Kiev's intelligence service that Moscow is planning to launch a full-blown offensive against Ukraine. However, the Kremlin has repeatedly denied allegations that Russia is massing its troops along the shared demarcation line in preparation for an invasion. So here's my thoughts. This is what got me to reach out. I'll say that much. My opinion is my opinion. It's not based on anything that's been told to me. My only question was, are these moving? That was it. And I won't tell you what they told me, but I will tell you that the reason I think they're moving, is that either A, as a defense, let's say they do intend to invade Ukraine. I see it as possible a defense right there in case somebody else wants to go nuclear. The other thing that I see is they have been pretty open about expanding their nuclear weapons west because of everything that's going on and NATO buildup along its eastern borders, or western borders, I guess. Sorry, I don't live over there, so I can tell you that way is north, that's south. I live here. But anyway, I think that's all it amounts to. I think that it's a defense. Now, whether it's a defense getting ready to guard an offense, or whether it's just a defense because of another's offense or possible offense, that's all I think it is. To think that Russia would launch a nuclear conflict over Ukraine is quite silly, to be honest. I think. At least not, it wouldn't be something that they would do to kick things off, Got an article here, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on a lot of these just because I'm not. Russia tired of smug lectures from Germany, says Lavrov. Just kind of trying to give you the feel of what's going on there. There's a lot of tension between Russia and Germany as well. Here says Pentagon responds to Russian chemical weapon warning. I will read a little of this. It says Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu's claim that the U.S. private military companies are planning to stage a provocation in eastern Ukraine using chemical weapons is incorrect, the Pentagon has insisted. And of course, speaking to the press on Tuesday, U.S. Department of Defense Press Secretary John Kirby completely denied all suggestions of any American plans to stage an incident. Those statements by Minister Shoigu are completely false. They're false, Kirby said, in response to a question from a reporter. But let's not forget what happened in Syria. Just saying. Western attempts to isolate Russian military are futile, says Moscow. It says here, efforts by Western nations to shut Russia out of the global defense arena are failing to materialize, the country's defense minister has said, arguing that Moscow boasts an array of partners worldwide for military cooperation. Taking to the floor as part of the expanded meeting at the Ministry of Defense on Tuesday, Sergei Shoigu said that his army cooperates with the armed forces of 109 countries. This clearly demonstrates the futility of attempts by Western countries to isolate Russia in the international arena, he remarked. The senior official highlighted ties between Moscow and Beijing, noting that this year we conducted the third joint air and the first sea patrols with the People's Liberation Army of China. The two nations will carry on this work, he added. Shoigu's remarks come amid increasing tensions between Moscow and Western leaders in recent weeks over accusations that Russia is planning to invade neighboring Ukraine. Early in December, U.S. Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland said that Washington, along with its European allies, was mulling the possibility of isolating Russia from the global financial system if there is any military incursion. And the rest just goes on and on and on. You've heard it a million times. Let's see. Russia responds to cowboy clampdown on RTDE. This is the German language channel that they just keep cutting it off the air. I mean, they can't get it out by satellite. They can't YouTube, nothing, nada. So it's nuts, you know. It is absolutely nuts. A White House brushes off Putin's warning. That says the U.S. and NATO have no aggressive intent towards Russia. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said, dismissing Russia's warning of a military technical response to any hostile steps as rhetoric not aimed at the U.S. Asked during a press briefing on Wednesday whether the U.S. administration is concerned about the retaliatory measures promised by Moscow, Psaki said the ongoing diplomatic contacts were a good sign for strained U.S.-Russia ties. The good sign is there is an open line of diplomatic discussion and engagement that is happening, and we expect to continue. We hope to continue, Psaki stated. At the same time, she brushed off the warnings issued by Russia's President Vladimir Putin, who said Moscow will take appropriate military technical measures should the West continue with its clearly aggressive stance. The remarks were not meant for the American audience altogether, Psaki claimed, apparently implying that it was merely tough talk for domestic consumption. Negative. As Facebook would say, false, only partly true. It wasn't aimed just squarely at the United States. It was aimed at NATO, which consists of more than the United States, but it wasn't tough talk for their people. Military medics. Now we're going to start talking about, I'm drinking some coffee. Fun times. Alright, sorry. I had way too much blood in my nicotine system, so I had to deal with it. Military medics tout new vaccine to end COVID-19 pandemic. A candidate vaccine that uses a novel platform and may be good enough to deal with existing and emerging variants of SARS-CoV-2 viruses will reportedly be announced soon by researchers at the Walter Reed Army Institute in the U.S. Now, is this mil-spec? Because if it's mil-spec, I've got my doubts. I'm kidding. The unveiling may come within weeks, according to Dr. Kayvon Modurad. Yeah, dude, sorry. Director of Walter Reed's infectious disease branch, who was invented by Defense One, who was interviewed. I'm sorry, invented. He was invented by Defense One. That's a pretty scary statement. According to the military publication, the candidate vaccine may offer a single shot I'm telling you, I'm tired. Wide-scale immunity from diseases caused by human coronaviruses, including from future mutations. The formula uses a novel spike ferritin nanoparticle. Now, I'm sure that made you feel real cozy. In fact, I'm sure that made you feel so warm and cozy, I'm going to repeat it. It says the formula uses a novel spike ferritin nanoparticle. Platform. Add the word platform. Feel better yet? I mean, I'm starting to see like cells building scaffolding in my... Anyway, ferritins are natural proteins shaped like globular cages that are normally used by an organism to store iron. Yeah, globular cages, so it's a little scaffolding. Anyway, don't listen to me. Its self-assembly properties have made it an interesting tool for nanofabrication applications. Aren't you feeling really good yet about this? We'll continue. Don't worry. In the case of vaccination, seek your doctor. No. In the case of vaccination, the protein's 24 subunits, subunits. Now I'm starting to think about the pylons on an airplane underneath the wing where you mount the armaments, the missiles and bombs. In case of vaccination, the protein's 24 subunits can be fitted with protein spikes similar to those of drop tanks, similar to those of viruses used to attach the living cells before infecting them. Such nanoparticles may be injected to train the immune system to fight against real viruses, or with various kinds of spike proteins included in the same vaccine, it can immunize against a wide range of viruses, past and future. The researchers hope. You know what I hope? I hope I win the lottery, but you kind of got to play it. Man, years ago, I looked at what they were doing in medical advancements. And I mean, I researched it pretty heavily because I was amazed with it. I mean, come on. I did look into what they were doing with stem cell research and stuff like that. And it was incredible. The things that they were learning and the abilities that they were obtaining. Now, you may be morally against that kind of stuff, and that's fine. I'm not discussing pro or against or anything like that. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just talking about the science of it. And it amazed me because it doesn't really take long to figure out with the abilities that they have, they can eliminate most terminal diseases like in a flash. Totally eliminate them. And they've had the ability to do this for a very long time, probably even decades. You could probably add an S, make it plural, decades at this point. But they still haven't, because there's no profit in cures. And when I see stuff like this, I'm not easily fooled. There are a lot of very dark individuals in this world that would rather profit off human beings than help them enjoy their life. And the medical community, and when I say that, I'm not talking about the doctors and the nurses. I mean, that's the meat and the potatoes, you know? I'm not talking about them. I'm talking the individuals that are way above the nurses and the doctors. The ones that are making the decisions, the ones that are providing products and this, that, and the other thing. Very dark individuals. I don't know. I don't know if you caught some key things I said in that article. I mean, from the article directly. Doesn't make me sleep better. Omicron, second most contagious virus known to mankind, says a U.S. doctor. I don't know. You know, we'll see if others come out and say this as well. I'm not saying I believe it or don't believe it. I don't know. I'm not a virologist. I do know that they absolutely say this thing is stupid infectious, and I can believe it. I absolutely can believe it because I'm seeing what's happening. I'm not one of those people that, you know, just go with what I want to think. I go with what is happening and then form an opinion from that instead of forming my opinion first. And there's something out there spreading like wildfire quick. And I think it's Omicron. I think that's exactly what it is. But I thought this was rather interesting, and if this turns out to be true, wow, that's pretty incredible, huh? You know, again, I approach this stuff from a scientific, you know, I'm not approaching it from a level of fear of anything other than I'm looking at it going, wow, that's kind of impressive. And I don't mean, you know, I'll say the same thing about tornadoes, you know, very devastating, very horrible what they do. But at the same time, they're very impressive. The power, the amount of destruction, and just it's just amazing. I mean, you watch the videos that Bear Independent's been putting out. He did a video of a firehouse today that was hit, and the roof of the firehouse. It was kind of wild because he said in the video it kind of almost looked like part of the bars of an American flag hanging in the tree. And it was the roof of the firehouse. It was the tin, you know, it was red and white. Almost looked like the red and white bars of the American flag. You know, and if you've been paying attention to his videos that he's been putting out from in Kentucky, again, at the same time, it's horrific. It's also impressive at the power that it has. And to think that this made it to number 2 in infectious diseases, wow. So anyway, the only thing that they claim beats it out is the measles. So, and of course that drink had to go down the wrong tube. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. This is good news. At least I think. 1 second. Okay. As you see, it says case drop may show South Africa's Omicron peak has passed. It's good news. Says here, South Africa's noticeable drop in new COVID-19 cases in recent days may signal that the country's dramatic Omicron-driven surge has passed its peak, medical experts say. Daily virus case counts are notoriously unreliable as they can be affected by uneven testing, reporting delays, and other fluctuations, but they are offering one tantalizing hint, far from conclusive yet, that Omicron infections may recede quickly after a ferocious spike. Well, yeah? Wait a minute. There are a lot of people that were catching a lot of slack for the last 2 years for saying such. Hang on a second. I talk about learning curves. I don't like being forced to live on other people's learning curves, and I don't mean anyone to take offense to that. But every single day, and pretty much of every day of almost all of my life, I strive to learn. And so it's kind of crappy to hold me back, you know what I mean? When I've done my homework a long time ago. And, that's what I feel like all of this is. For the last 2 years I've been reporting on it. We were one of the first to report on it. There wasn't a whole lot of other people talking about it, and when we started bringing it up, people thought we were nuts 2 years ago. And I was saying, we're seeing something in China, and I was saying then, hang on, 2 years ago. And nobody believed me. Well, the reason it caught my eye is because, maybe there's a little bit of learning curve involved. And as I said then, and I'll repeat now, it might make more sense now, I didn't know if the actual sickness was going to be that bad or just the response to the sickness. Got a little bit of both, didn't we? Again, I'm not a fan of being held back while others are still learning. Just let me keep learning and moving forward. But we can't do that because, they got to keep you all safe. And keeping you safe means keeping a narrative. Anyway, we'll continue. Study estimates risk of Omicron causing severe disease. The Omicron variant of COVID-19 is less likely to cause hospitalization and severe disease than the variants that preceded it, according to non-peer-reviewed study in South Africa, where the virus was first isolated. Speaking during a news conference on Wednesday, Professor Cheryl Cohen of the country's National Institute for Communicable Diseases, I can't speak for nothing, I am butchering all of this, said their data supported initial observations that Omicron was less virulent than previous strains. I'm telling you. In South Africa, this is the epidemiology. Omicron is behaving in a way that is less severe, said Cohen, who also co-authored the study. It says the research, which has not yet been peer-reviewed, found that South Africans diagnosed with Omicron between October 1st and November 30th were 80% less likely to be admitted to the hospital than people suffering from other variants of the virus during the same time frame. So, said the study also discovered that people hospitalized with Omicron in October through November were 70% less likely to develop severe symptoms than South Africans admitted to the hospital with Delta between April and November. So, it says the researchers prefaced their findings by noting that higher levels of community immunity provided both by vaccines and through prior infection likely played a part in the limiting of severity of infection. So, and I'm sure it did play a part, but everything that it looks, from multiple different places, is that this is not, as far as the symptoms, as severe, and I certainly hope that's the case. It looks that way. It truly looks that way. And when you consider how quickly this is spreading, man, I've said it multiple times. I think Omicron's good news. I think it's good news. This looks like it's probably going to be our ticket out. Because there's a high probability that when the next mutation, and yes, I said next mutation because just accept it, it's going to happen. When the next mutation happens, there's a fair chance it'll be even more transmissible, if you can imagine that, with even less symptoms. So that's the way that it typically works. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I did take health class. And we have a good school here, or at least when I went through it, we had a good school. So this is good news, in my opinion. Now, Fauci, and I need to mention this, I noticed that he said something about, we still need to be heavily concerned, That wasn't exactly the words verbatim, but when does it stop? When are they going to stop with this fear? And what's scaring me, and I say the word scaring, that's not the right word. What's concerning me is they're starting to get, they're adding almost a level of violence to their speak. That's not good. It says here, new UK daily COVID cases top 100,000 for the first time. And, that just going on the point I was making that, this thing is spreading like wildfire. It's crazy. Millions of people sent into COVID lockdown in China. So they're going through all of that again. Telling you, keep your eyes open here in the U.S. And then I talked about this at the beginning, D.C. to ban unvaccinated from public spaces. It's absolutely happening. And I don't think that it's going to stop there. I think it's going to spread and spread and spread and spread with these bans of the unvaccinated doing this and that. It continues to make no sense to me. I mean, not even remotely. I mean, not in the way that it's presented. I'll put it that way. Not in the way it's... I need to make a Rumble video. I really do. Let's go ahead and do headlines. Hell, it's already a quarter after. And I'm clearly not going to get paid overtime by YouTube. I'm not going to get paid undertime by YouTube. Craziness. Nah, I don't care. I'm here. Whatever. I got news to do. Alrighty. Alright. Starting with the headlines from this morning. Elon Musk unveils biggest threat to modern civilization. And I believe wokeness is what he had to say. Imagine that. A shocking scale of COVID relief fraud revealed. Yeah, when is the fraud of the administration going to be revealed? Let's see. God removed from Christmas hymn. That was, I guess, in Sweden. Ukraine pledges to stop Nord Stream 2. Police get more powers under new law. That's in Russia. Lukashenko fan shop opens in Minsk. I figured I would let you guys know. That way, if you want to hop over to Minsk and get you some Lukashenko gear. Now you know. I don't know if they'll ship to the U.S. or not. You'll have to check it out. Russia gets nuclear boost in the Pacific. Oh, sorry, I covered that. Ryanair flight Russian asked for pardon. Germany ditching nuclear power at worst possible time. Yeah, right now would probably be a bad time. I'm not a huge fan of nuclear power, but just to cut them offline and say, it's not a good idea. We've got to do something like replace the power before we can start taking stuff offline. Berlin forces EU satellite operator to take RT's German TV broadcast off air. That's what I was referring to earlier. Moscow reveals when Russia and U.S. will hold crucial security talks. Covered that. France extends COVID vaccination to children aged 5 to 11. Of course, the U.S. has already done that. And to my knowledge, I think the U.S. is currently working on approving from, I believe it was from infants to, on up to 4. Insane. Europe faces full-blown energy crisis. Welsh fined for trips to work, but not for pub crawls. A perfectly preserved dinosaur embryo found in an egg. But they can't find the billions of dollars that was lost. Oh, no, actually that was trillions, wasn't it? That was lost by the Pentagon. I think it was trillions with a T. Let's see. Muhammad tops Israel's list of popular baby names. Minister swims for 12 hours after chopper crashes into the ocean. That had to suck. Moscow may mirror Western restrictions on Russia media, says Lavrov. Japanese forced to downsize on French fries. And in other news, Japanese are becoming healthier. World's first SMS sells for over $150,000. Man, this stuff is stupid. And I say that because I got no way to get in on it. U.S. diplomat detained over secret meeting with Syrian national. Covered that. Musk blasts California tax, says he dumps more stock. China fires up its artificial sun. But no reports yet on the artificial daughter. I'm kidding. Billionaire quits church over LGBTQ and women's rights. Erdogan touts Turcovac to the world. Get your Turcovac today. $9.95 plus shipping. Russia tired of smug lectures from Germany. I covered that one. A Russian airline makes first flight with green fuel. Put a little dye in it, makes everybody happy. No, it's not what it is. And there were others I was just reading that was talking about doing this. And somewhere over in Europe, I think it was. I might have even did a headline on it. But they're not ready to do it yet. They're still in the process of doing it. I guess Russia's already doing it. The average Joe will lose 2 years of life. I have a feeling that before it's all said and done, that's gonna sadly change for the worse. Trump reveals why he didn't pardon Snowden or Assange. Study estimates risk of Omicron causing severe disease. Russian claim that U.S. is preparing covered that one. Germany's Ethics Council rules on mandatory vaccination. Dutch prosecutors demand life sentence for MH17 disaster suspects. Let's see. France France rejects thousands of doses of COVID antiviral treatment, trying to add things that weren't there. New UK COVID infections top 100,000 in a single day for the first time. Oh, I covered that. Met Police risk probe over response to high-profile lockdown parties. Covered that. Boss of major crypto exchange sued over alleged fraud. Tesla probed over crash risky gameplay feature. Twitter sued, accused of acting on behalf of the U.S. government. Let's see. First COVID-19 pill treatment approved for emergency use in the U.S. A Russian tycoon settles Putin's people libel suit. Russia's battles on world stage laid bare by foreign minister in RT interview. After Trump's move, White House says Biden to speak on January 6th. I have a feeling that could be an interesting day. Amazon limits COVID test kit purchases amid Omicron wave. I think I had, I think. EU no longer cares about supposed values. Kremlin on RTDE. So I think I covered that one. I know I covered that. Let's see. Covered that. Congresswoman carjacked and robbed at gunpoint. Some of those headlines change, by the way, from the time that I share them out to the time that I bring them up for the show. The headline will change a little bit, and so that's why some of them throw me off. Biden delays but not cancels student debt. Covered that. U.S. disavows diplomat arrested in Turkey. Kamala Harris tested for COVID after exposure. And not sure how that one came out, but while she was there, they tested her for the dumb. And very serious case of the dumb. New Russian aerosol drug fights all COVID strains, including Omicron. Says developer, that is. D.C. to ban unvaccinated from public spaces. Biden reveals what could change his 2024 plans. Supposedly he has intent on running as long as his health stays together, and he was asked about, whether or not he would run if Trump decided to run, and he responded something to the effect of, "Don't tempt me." So I'll tell you what, I don't know that it could be done again. I don't know that Biden could beat Trump, at least even in, you know what I mean. I don't think that it could even be remotely close if they went at it a second round. I don't. I think there are a lot of people, a whole lot of people that learned their lesson over the last couple of years. Without a doubt. We'll see, though. We'll see. And there really is no good answer. That's the sad part. Not good for us. There's a little better options, but no good options. That's the problem. But anyway, those are the headlines. I don't see any more new ones that are popped up there since we started, so I'm going to get the heck out of here. And God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll do it again. I do truly appreciate you all coming. I appreciate you seeking the truth. I really, truly do. I'm not one to slobber over viewers and stuff like that a lot of channels do, because I don't think a lot of it's sincere. I think some of them are sincere, and I think some of them are sincere about some things. But I think a lot of it's just brown nosing, and I'm not a fan of that. But folks that come here, they have to be hungry for truth. Because I'm not good at this. I suck. I'm harsh. I'm brash. I can be an ass. But one thing I do is I bring the truth to the table. And if you can put up with me and continue to come back day in and day out, yeah, I gotta hand it to you. Because I'm certainly not everybody's cup of tea. In fact, I'm not most people's cup of tea. And I'm good with that too. I'm not a social person. Anyway, I do appreciate you. All of you. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. Shalom.